So there's this narrative that I just want to set straight. So, there's chants or, terminology that could be seen as anti-Semitic. And the current generation that I'm living in is trying to put an end to that because we don't believe in death to Jews or killing of the Jews. Because, especially for me as a Muslim, Jews are in the Quran called the people of the book. They're the first people to understand that the prophet Abraham existed, that the prophet Moses existed, the parting of the Red Sea, all these miracles that were created that then trickled on into Christianity, that then trickled on into Islam. Now, when you hear people say death to Jews and we need to kick them out of the land, it's because up until 1948, there was no such thing as an Israeli. It was Jewish Europeans moving to Palestine, identifying as Jews. They did not identify as Israelis because there was not a thing called Israelis. So our grandparents were getting kicked out of their houses by Jewish population. They were being murdered by Jewish population. And they passed that down onto their children. Oh, the Jews are the ones that killed us. The Jews are the ones that did this, that, and the third. So now it's our generation that's more politically correct, that's more aware, that's more educated. It's like, or it's not Jews, it's the Israelis, it's the pro-Zionists. And there's a difference between a Jewish person being a Jewish person and somebody who is pro-Zionist. Zionism means that you believe that Israel has the right to exist as it continues to murder and ethnically cleanse Palestinians. So if somebody says what's happening to Jewish people right now is the Holocaust, that because of death threats, what about the fact that you're actually killing Israelis, are actually killing Palestinians? That you're participating in a genocide, in ethnic cleansing, that you're supporting it. If you don't denounce the actions of Israelis, whether it's the IDF, whether it's citizens, whether it's settlers, you cannot sit here and be the boy that cried, the sheep that cried wolf, or the boy that cried wolf, whatever it's called. Because you're saying that Jewish lives are more important than Palestinian lives, that Israeli lives are more important than Palestinian lives. And if that's what you believe, you can never be a defender of human rights. You cannot say that you don't believe that Palestinians have the right to live, but then call yourself a supporter of the BLM, LGBTQT, all these other, social justice movements. Because if you don't believe in this, you stand for nothing.
What's going on, everybody? It's Jalen Omega, and I just want to really quickly, and I've reiterated this in the video a couple of times. This is my first Zoom JayTalk collab, JayTalk live, whatever you want to call it, and it's strictly for informational purposes only, not to be judgmental, not to choose a side. It's just strictly for people like me, like I've said in the video, again, who just don't know what's going on and they want to learn and know more. So just keep that in mind as you watch the video. And keep in mind that this is real, that this is really happening, that these are real lives that are being affected, just like any other social movement that we've had. That was just my main goal, have two people who really are from this ethnicity, religion, race, and have really experienced these things. So just keep that in mind. Welcome back to another episode of JayTalk. I'm your host as always, Jalen Omega. Thank you guys for tuning in. This week's a little different, as you can see, because we have a very different stream of current events going on in the world right now. And I brought my good friend, great friend of mine. I've known him for a couple years now, more than a couple years, through college, through mutual jobs and stuff like that. So I'm gonna let him go ahead and introduce himself, and we're gonna get into the topic for today.
Hey, what's going on? Jay, what is it? The J Squad? What are we talking? I don't know what you guys got.
I don't have a name yet. I don't have a name yet. That's crazy. I need to
we gotta. Yeah, you do. So what's going on? My name is Matt, currently from South Florida. I now work for a family law firm down here in South Florida, and working in estate planning as well as divorce and other family matters. So definitely interesting down here. So
I told him that when I get famous, he's gonna be up there on the bar, in the bar status. I don't know what it's called, but he's gonna be my personal lawyer. So I've been saying that for years.
I appreciate it. Got to get into law school first, but that's the next goal.
It's coming.
Absolutely.
So like I said before, a bunch of large stream of events going on, crypto, stock market, everything's crashing, losing fossil fuel, gas. It's a rambling experience for me right now because it's just so much going on. But I wanted to kind of touch on what's going on with Palestine and Israel right now. And the reason I wanted to touch on this topic and bring you on is because I guess you could say, pleading ignorance. And because I don't know, I genuinely don't know. And I don't want to be one of those people posting false things on my stories and social media outlets, because creating false narratives is hard to come back from and hard to recover and patch up to be right. So, for those who don't know, he is Jewish. So that's why I also thought that he would be a great person to come on here and let us know what's going on. So let you have the floor with that.
I mean, I appreciate it, but I am no expert, obviously. Obviously we're so young, and I'm very young in the industry, and obviously learning my professional self. And, obviously opinions differ, but I think I'm sharing straight facts, and I hope I'm sharing straight knowledge to the people and, to your viewers and stuff, because I think this is kind of important. So, yeah, unfortunately, there's a terrorist organization named Hamas that's ruling the land of Gaza and the Palestine land. That's creating these bombings and these terroristic zones for their families and, just regular Palestinian families in there. And unfortunately, the rhetoric is to always kill Israelis, kill Israel, get rid of Israel, make it Palestine's land and stuff of that nature. Well, it's about 70 plus years ago, Israel was created land from Great Britain and given the opportunity to have independence and have the land to be Jewish and Jewish land. And, fortunately and unfortunately, we see narratives in the media today that, are both lopsided and, are on both sides. And unfortunately, some of that stuff is not true. And just, I want to kind of spread a little bit of the truth. So there's a couple of videos going around and going online, stuff of that nature about, they look like fireworks in the air, stuff of that nature, but it's actually not fireworks. What it is actually a technology called the Iron Dome. And basically what this Iron Dome does is it's in central key locations of the country of Israel. And basically as soon as rockets go off, it sends another rocket off to go track and detonate that rocket that Hamas set off. So while it looks like it's fireworks in the sky, it's literally a rocket fight in the middle of the air between two countries. And, it's kind of crazy because I've had the opportunity to visit Israel and as well as go to conferences in Washington, D.C. called the APEC Policy Conference, where basically it's a nonpartisan conference talking about the American-Israel connection. And, America is so strong with Israel because Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East. And, not a lot of people know that. And
I didn't know that. So wow.
A lot of people, and it's unfortunate because areas are so filled with such hatred and negativity. And, I just feel it's crazy because Israelis they're great sense of people once you get to know them and once you get to understand their story. They're always great people, but they're always on edge too. Like, for example, I was in Israel and when I was staying with family, I stayed in a bomb shelter. Part of the apartment, it was a 2-bedroom apartment. One of the bedrooms was in a bomb shelter. They built an entire row of the apartments in a row where they have 4 level, 5-story buildings where all bomb shelters are in literally one row. So on every single floor, a bedroom is literally lined up in a row with just a straight shelter, just in case the building collapses overnight because if a bomb happens.
Wow. So that's what you mean by on edge. That's life on the edge for real. And that's not, no pun intended, man. I couldn't even imagine living in circumstances like that. And it just makes me think how good we have it here right now. I feel blessed every single day, but just seeing what's going on in other parts of the world, it's mad, man. That's crazy.
I mean, it is very crazy. And, I really felt safe walking in Israel and going around Israel and stuff because everywhere you go, soldiers are carrying guns. And, there's always a soldier on every corner.
Right.
And unfortunately, they've seen their bombing, shootings, and the list goes on of what terrorists and terrible things have happened in that country. And, you know, I'm not saying that other places don't have everything awful, because everywhere, there's always negatives and positives to everything in life. And, you know, people are going through things and everywhere. But at the end of the day, Israel's not fighting back. Israel's not going in there and shooting weapons and doing this purposefully. They're protecting themselves. They have the sole fundamental right to protect themselves. And that's fundamentally the reason of what's going on. Everyone thinks that, you know, they're coming in and destroying all this land and this property, and ethnic cleansing is something that I see that's going on online. It's not true. It's just terrible rhetoric that's going on around online, and it's just not true.
I wanted to touch on that as well with all these, because I was going to mention too, like for years, I've been seeing this, not as much as right now, obviously, because this is worldwide news, but free Palestine, free Palestine. So like looking like, and from their point of view, why has that hashtag been so spread about for the past couple of years lately? Because I have Palestinian acquaintances that I know through others, and the things that they post, like what I see on social media is obviously like from my following, right? So like from both sides, I see peace. So it's like, I know you're speaking on the Israeli side of things from their point of view, kind of, but where do you think the Palestinians stand in all of this? Like, where is this free Palestine coming from?
I mean, I don't want to be the one to characterize and judge, because that's just not me at the end of the day. And
Right. Yeah.
I only know a point of view that I know, and I only feel comfortable of stating the point of view that I've seen. You know, during the conference, for example, they showed me what the Iron Dome was, like I was explaining earlier.
Mhm.
It's literally a 10-foot by 10-foot piece of technology that's a dome, and literally has a computer on the side that someone sits there and programs, and they coordinates and it's crazy. It's like a video game, but it's literally in life. And it's insane because they also have technology now. When I was at the last policy conference, that basically is a built up hospital. It's literally, they build a hospital in the middle of the desert. It's a pop-up tent, and they have a surgery room, an operation room. They have everything. It's literally a post-op triage, everything. It's like a 4 or 5 bedroom tent that's all connected, and they could pop it up just in the middle of that if something happens, you know. And that's technology. That's crazy that they have to innovate like that and have that, you know, that there, you know. It's crazy that they even have to have that technology, but it's there, and it's there at their use. And, you know, a lot of people think, oh, they see a lot of money going to this country and that country, but not a lot of people know during that COVID relief bill, if you go look at it, there's a lot of foreign aid in there.
I've heard
People
about
don't know that.
I've
People
heard
don't know that, you know. And like, and it's like, oh, COVID money's going for the people. And like, yes,
a,
you know,
a little,
some people have, you know, and you know,
yeah.
but it's crazy. It really is. And unfortunately, you know, that's just life. You know, unfortunately, we're gonna get the good stuff, the bad stuff. And, you know, thank you for allowing me to be on your platform, allowing to share a little bit of my knowledge that I know and
Of
I've
course.
seen. So
So let me ask you as well, man. Thank you for being here, by the way. I know we planned this on such short notice. So we're gonna wrap it up in a little bit, but how's your family doing? Because I know you have family out there. How are they doing?
I mean, they're doing good. I mean, my family is pretty distant in the country. I have some family in the north and the south, and obviously in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. And, you
Oh,
know, they're doing okay, and they're doing as best as they can. And they're just, everyone's on edge. You know, everyone is just. I have it. I have a video that was sent in my group chat in my family of what's going on there, and it's like I said, it was like you see the video of fireworks, and it literally looks like it. Like, but it's not. I mean, it's obviously it's not, and it's so unfortunate. And I don't want to keep referencing that, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's just
so
it's crazy.
so would you classify this as a war? Is this war? Like, and if so, like what kind of like what is the end goal from what do you think from both sides maybe? I know not to put you on the spot or anything because I'm obviously it's a war, there's rockets going off, there's a battle happening, but it's like what is the end goal for this?
I mean, I think the end goal is peace. I think that's really the end goal of this, and unfortunately, political regimes I feel are definitely changing the area and stuff of that nature. It's kind of sad that this administration that's in office right now hasn't said a word or said anything about it, and we call ourselves an ally to that country. I mean, to me, that's kind of pathetic. But we have a couple congressmen, like a congressman in my area named Congressman Ted Deutsch, who spoke on the floor today about it, and had a conversation with it, and that's important, and
Yeah.
to give knowledge and bring awareness. I think that's the first step, right? Bringing awareness, and like, I think the next step is to make a change. I think is to make a change and make something happen, right? So I think we can have a conversation. We need to sit down. It's 2021. Like, I think we all need to grow up, put on our big girl and big boy pants, sit down at a table and literally have a conversation. I think it's so sad that kids of our generation and other kids can't sit down and conversate and have intellectual conversations with people. And as soon as someone has an opposing viewpoint of another person, their idea shut off. Everything shuts down and everything is crazy. And it's so sad because we're so, I'm connecting through a computer screen. I've been in a computer screen for months now, for years now, like it's really crazy, like everything that's going on. And it's so important, the power of people and the power of connectivity. To me, it's just so important. And like, okay, you're not going to agree with everyone in life. Like, there's 7 billion people on this earth, like, not everyone's not going to be your friend. You know what I mean? And we all know that. But at the end of the day, like, just the power of conversation is just so important, and being able to sit down and conversate and hear other people's viewpoints. Like, I'm not shying away the Palestinian viewpoint. I'm not like, I would love for people to contact me and, have a conversation with me about it. And, let's empower and incite each other. And like, let's talk about it, because, it's unfortunate people just go down your throat and do all this negative stuff and do all this negativity and hatred and everything that's going on, like, protesting is great, but then there's riots. I mean, there's a huge difference.
That's
Like,
what I was gonna mention too, man. Like, I definitely have had those tough conversations with my family and people close to me, whether it was about like the Black Lives Matter movement and peaceful protests turned to riots and stuff like that, versus the whole presidential debate. I have plenty of friends on both sides, and I never once, even if it made me angry what they thought or how they felt, never once shied away or just cut them off because of their viewpoint. It's like, how are we going to grow if we can't seek to understand each other? Like, if you just at least try to seek to understand someone, even if you don't agree with them, that's change right there, in my opinion, man. So yeah, definitely change is a big thing, and we see the world changing in a lot of different ways than one.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And just the power of knowledge is just so important, and but correct knowledge. I think that's just something that we need to stress on too. It's just so unfortunate that we have agendas and media and stuff of that nature who post things and construe things and mix up things. And like, I know we're trying to have a conversation about, the topic in the Middle East, but
that's great. This is great.
At the end of the day, like, we need to have straight conversations with people and just talk to people and be with people and like connect. I think that's like something that's major. Like,
and it's so crazy. It's so, isn't it how ironic how connected we are to technology, but how disconnected we are from each other? Like,
it's so insane when like people live off of this. Like, this is dangerous. This is very dangerous. And
agree, man.
And it's very powerful too. Like, we literally have a mini computer at our fingertips, and like, I don't know where I'm rambling off this, but like, at the end of
to bring up any type of information. No, but you have a good point. We have a mini computer at our fingertips to give us any information. If I want to know the score of a game that I'm not watching, I just ask Siri. If I want to know a multiplication or fraction equation, I just ask Siri. And it's like, we have this stuff right at our fingertips, where we still choose to feed into what we agree with, whether it's right or wrong. And it's subconscious too. It's very subconsciously happening. Like I spoke to you about it yesterday or a couple days ago, something like that, how I posted something without having prior knowledge, and you immediately like, okay, this is not completely true. And I took it down. I'm like, okay, so what is the facts? And if somebody who was not like me, was not seeking true knowledge and correct knowledge, they would have just read your message, ignored it, left it up, just because they probably would have got praise from it, you know? People are always looking for that instant gratification, but no, I want to learn. So that's why we're here tonight, man. And seriously, man, I really do appreciate you taking a little bit of your evening out to talk about all these things as from your point of view, to your knowledge, because you are in this. This is also a part of your heritage too. As we said before, you're Jewish, and you're in these things, like you're in some of these rooms. So I think this is really great stuff, just to have people think a little bit. And I mean, I guarantee you at least one person is going to watch probably a 45-second clip of this, of you speaking, and be like, okay, let me do more like searching and see what's really going on. Like, so man, I just thank you, man. I really do appreciate you.
Absolutely, no worries. And dude, like I said at the beginning, I'm really not an expert. Like, I don't know this. Obviously, this topic 100% solid. You know, there's obviously room for conversation and room for growth. You know, at the end of the day, but you know, being able to spread my knowledge and my wisdom about it, and it's so unfortunate that the country of Israel has to deal with a terroristic group sending rockets over into their country, and Israel has to have the technology to send rockets back and detonate the rockets that Hamas is sending over. It's literally a rocket on rocket warfare. And if they haven't declared war, then I would say it is a war. I mean, it's obviously military use and military zoned, and they're fighting. It's a fight, you know. But at the end of the day, I think realistically, peace will come. Yes, there's violence now, and we see the media showing the violence and showing everything that's going on, but it's not just it's not going to go on forever. And you know, I think everyone needs to come to the table and seriously have a conversation, and you know, seriously move and hear both sides of the story and sit down and literally have a conversation and fix this, because this is unacceptable, and this shouldn't be acceptable anywhere, you know, anywhere in our world, anywhere. And I think sometimes we need to step out and step up and really participate and really make a voice and make an impact. So, you know, I love to bring awareness, and that's what I wanted to bring tonight. So I appreciate you, Jalen. You're the man.
Yes, sir, man. Thank you, man. I can't wait to hang out soon.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to come back to the city, or I go out there. Anything else you want the audience to know?
You know, just trying to spread accurate information, but like, not politically, but like just accurate information in life in general. Yeah. So, you know, hopefully I like to have fun, and hopefully that's what my profiles show off. So
thank you, my boy. I appreciate you. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up right there. If you like this information, you want to hear more, if you even like the Zoom, this is my first Zoom. So I know it's a little different, but hey, this is how the world's working now. So be sure to hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. Again, thank you so much, Matt, for my first Zoom call and some real knowledge that I had no idea about. So I'll be talking to you soon, brother. Have a good night.
Thanks, buddy. You too.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, as always, Jalen Omega, and this is going to be the part 2. I don't know what I'm going to name this yet, but I spoke with Matt prior to this, and I told him, after we got all done recording, I told him, like, hey, I don't think it would be fair to post something only one-sided. So I have my good friend here. We met a couple years ago, but she, I'm just going to, you know what? I'm going to let her introduce herself and take the floor. This is her talk right now. So go ahead.
Okay, so hey guys, my name is Danna. Jalen and I met a few years ago through friends. I won't go as far as to say more personal information for security purposes, and people will find out later on what I mean by that. But you know, I am part of the American Palestinian diaspora here in the US. I am focusing my academic career on conflict resolution, on conflicts of the Middle East, alongside religious studies and religious history. I'm a first generation Palestinian American, Muslim, woman. I'm all the minorities.
All of the above.
All those scholarship monies. Yeah.
I thought it'd be amazing to have you on because like we spoke about before getting on here. I'm sure there's a lot of Americans like myself, or even no matter where they're from, they just don't know what's going on. And this is solely just to get some information to learn and know where to start when doing research. And I want to make this clear to the audience as well. I wanted to be sure that everyone knows this. I don't have a stance in this, okay? I'm all about truth. I'm all about understanding. I'm all about the correct information because there's so much information out there that is misinformation or can be misconstrued. And I'm not about any of that. This platform is for, as I always do with JayTalk collabs, for my audience to learn something from whoever I may have on. So if there's something you don't care about, then you don't need to be here. I say that with the utmost sincerity. I'm genuinely here to learn, and I know there's other people in my audience who would like to do the same. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you take the floor with that.
Yeah, quick. This is how I introduce it to all my friends. Because I mean, I have been talking about this since middle school, let's say, since I started really opening my eyes to what's going on.
Wow.
And basically every single one of my friends has heard me scream Free Palestine at one point in time. And the best way to teach them is from the beginning. So pre-World War I, the Ottoman Empire, which would now be called modern day Turkey, used to rule over the Middle East. And they were expanding on into Europe and North Africa. The Western European countries were very scared of that. So they approached the Middle East and said, hey, if you help us defeat the Ottoman Empire, we will give you countries. And, they spoke to like heads of families and were like, hey, we'll make you the head of this country and we'll give you this and we'll give you that. Now, during the time of the Ottoman Empire, and let's say that they ruled for almost, I want to say 900 years, these were Arabs living in peace. These were Arabs, these were Kurdish people, these were Assyrians, these were Phoenicians, Nubians, these were people that identify as Nubians. I don't know if they were still like part of the empire at the time. People living, coexisting of all religions, so Christian, Catholic, atheist, Druze, Jewish, Islamic, it was far and wide. Upon this time, the Arab leaders, the tribal leaders that were, approached agreed. So they agreed, and that it's called the McMahon Hussein Correspondence, and it was between the years 1915 and 1916, right after, around World War I, where they said, okay, this is how we're going to do it, and this is how we're going to split it. Great. What these Arab leaders didn't know at the same time was that the UK government and the French government, in correspondence with the Russian government, were also doing a secret deal on the side called the Sykes-Picot Agreement. And they were like, hey, I know we told the Arabs this, but what we're actually going to do is we're going to colonize these countries. The British are going to get a few, the French are going to get a few. And, the Russians and the Italians are going to watch over this. At the same time, there was a letter of, I think we all know who the Rothschild family is.
Heard of them. We don't know if they really exist.
Do your research. They're a very interesting family. Yeah. So they're one of the biggest banking families in the world. Mm-hmm. So, a Rothschild was living in the UK, coming from a lot of money, of Jewish European background. He approached the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom, which his name is Lord Balfour. The Zionist movement in the UK, so Zionism means the right to return or the returning of their homeland. They reached out to this foreign secretary and said, hey, we want to find a homeland for the Jewish people. And at the time, there was already a lot of anti-Semitism happening in Europe. There was already a lot of Jewish hate, blaming them for World War I. There was already pogroms happening in Russia where they were killing and putting Jews and other ethnicities in these concentration camps. So they said, hey, we want to find a home for the Jewish people. They were torn between Uganda. They were torn between Ethiopia. They were torn between Palestine. There's a rumor, I don't fully know the accuracy of it, where they even thought about going to Argentina and making Argentina a Jewish home, which is why there's a lot of Jewish people in Argentina now.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So through, through a lot of, sorry, what were we going to say?
No. I would say I can see the correlation for sure. Yeah. You know some Jewish Argentinians, which
right? I'm like, how'd y'all get there? But
never put two and two together.
Yeah. I just don't know if that was like actually ever a discussion. So they agreed on Palestine because the British essentially got hold of Palestine and they got hold of Jordan.
Okay.
And parts of Egypt, where the French also kind of colonized Egypt alongside Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq was going to the British people.
Okay.
Saudi Arabia was then created into a country, and then you get the rest of the Middle East that was also kind of colonized and broke out into their freedom and their independence.
Okay.
So in 1917, when it's called the Balfour Declaration, when it was signed, small numbers of Jewish Europeans were going into the Palestinian region, and it was fine. It was small numbers. They were coexisting alongside Palestinians. Palestinians are the indigenous people to the land. And within Palestinians, there's Jews, there's Christians, there's Muslims, there's atheists, there's Druze. So when you think Palestinians, I don't want anyone to correlate Palestine with Islam, because you have to also remember that Christianity started in Palestine. You know, Bethlehem, where Jesus was born, is in Palestine. Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth, that's what they call him. You know, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is where Jesus's tomb is, where it was said that he rose from his tomb, is in Jerusalem. These are all Palestinian cities. So, you know, you can't say that Palestine is Muslim when all of these historical and significant Christian landmarks are there. So they were slowly and surely coming. In 1926 was the first outbreak in a city called Hebron. In Arabic, we call it Al-Khalil. There was a small, I don't want to say a small, a massacre there where the Jewish population was trying to overrun the city. And then post-World War II, during the Holocaust, which we need to say from the beginning was a terrible thing. Millions and millions of Jews lost their lives. You know, nobody here is supporting Hitler or what Hitler did. These Jewish people, the ones that survived the concentration camps, the ones that were able to escape, truly had nowhere to go. You know, the US was closing their borders on them. Multiple, you know, European countries were losing the war. They couldn't take them in. They had really nowhere to go. So a lot of them came to Palestine. And this is where the problems arose. So let's say from 1944 to 1948 was an influx of millions of Jewish people, coming into Palestine. In 1948, so if you look it up, it'll say May 15, 1948. So we call that, the Palestinians call it the Nakba. And the Nakba in Arabic means the catastrophe or the great catastrophe. The Jewish population will call it the Independence Day of Israel. And that's the day that they became a country, officially.
Okay, and this was in you said
48.
48, okay.
So upon doing that, they killed thousands, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. 750,000 Palestinians were kicked out of their homes and to this day have not gone back.
And that's a lot. Like,
it's a lot of people.
That, like, that's a lot of people.
Exactly.
Like, how many, if you don't mind me asking, like, how many, I mean, I know they're scattered, like Palestinians are scattered throughout the globe, but like how many Palestinians, I don't know the correct way to ask this.
Okay.
Like, do you know what I'm trying to ask? Like
what's the population of Palestinians around the world?
Around the world. I cannot figure out how to formulate that sentence, but
I've never been asked this. You can say, so online it'll tell you 13 million.
Okay. But that's a lot of people. 750 compared to 13 million. It's almost that's more.
That's a big percentage.
Yeah.
And this is, remember, so my grandparents on both sides were born before that. So I'm one of the lucky families where we weren't killed in the war, and we didn't leave officially in 1948. We had one grandfather leave, and then he resettled in another country in the Middle East. Whereas my dad's family were able to stay in their home in Palestine, and it's where my dad grew up.
Wow.
But now you have to remember that there's 750,000 Palestinians. These are people who had kids, and their kids had kids. You know? Like there's now great grandchildren. And these are Palestinians that have moved to other countries. There's some that are living in refugee camps and are still living in these refugee camps because the governments that they moved to will not give them citizenship rights. So imagine your parents in 1948 moving to a refugee camp in Lebanon, for example, You being born in this refugee camp and your children being born in this refugee camp, you don't have a citizenship to any country. You're not allowed to return to the country that you're originally from. You don't have the right to work. You don't have clean water. You don't have access to food. You don't have access to do anything. You're stuck in a refugee camp relying on international aid and support and donations.
That's so disheartening.
It's disgusting.
So yeah, it is. It is I couldn't even imagine. I don't even want to imagine living a life.
It's not exactly, you don't. But the thing is, there's millions of them living in these conditions, you know, and we can blame a ton of people, the governments who won't accept them, all these things. But the blame goes to the Israeli government, who has refused time and time again to allow these people to return to their houses. Now, I want you to picture this. You're living in your house right now. You're chilling. Boom, somebody breaks into your house and kicks you out. You can only carry with you what you can on your hands. You're leaving on foot. They're not putting you on a plane. They're not putting you on a train. You're leaving your house by foot and you don't know where you're going. You have your house keys with you. You come back 60 years later and the house that you're living in is still there. But there's other people living in it. And it's the same key. You can literally see people living in it. That's what's happening right now. People are going to Palestine to visit the homes of their grandparents, and there's, people living there, and it's the same exact home in the pictures that they saw their grandparents growing up in.
So why has this been going on for so long?
So there's a collective guilt, what we call it. So these European countries and Western powers, the United States included, feel guilty for allowing the Holocaust to happen and for allowing so many people to have died and have been murdered by the Nazi power and the Nazi regime. So they've allowed Israel to exist conditionally of, in 1948, the United Nations had just been formed. There was, I want to say, there's now 189 countries, 198. It was less than that by a significant amount. And they said, hey, this is the land, right? This is the land. We are going to give 60% of the lands to the Israelis and 40% to the Palestinians. So from that 40%, we have 6%. So from 1948 to now, they've taken 34% of the 40 that we were originally given.
So is that where this narrative of ethnic cleansing comes from, or is it deeper?
I mean, the ethnic cleansing starts from the killing and the eviction of 750,000 Palestinians.
Okay.
From 1948 to now, it's 73 years. They have been systematically killing us, kicking us out of our homes, stealing our lands, burning our fields, cutting off our supplies. They've been doing so much they view us as a threat. Us being alive is a threat for them. Because for as long as we're alive, as Palestinians exist, we know that this land belongs to us. Okay. So they're killing us to get rid of us to then take majority of the land. So, from the 40%, they've expanded, they've kicked us out of our homes, they've taken our homes, they've built their own homes there. That's breaking international law. They're called illegal settlements.
So when you say they, sorry to interrupt, but when you say they, it's the Israelis, is what you're saying. Israel.
Correct. Okay. Now, imagine, the president of Israel right now, the prime minister, was born and raised in Philadelphia.
Okay.
He's a Harvard grad.
Okay.
Now, imagine him saying he is indigenous to this land and this land belongs to him. But he speaks better English than he does Hebrew.
So that's what he's saying about Israel.
Right, he's saying Israel, he's prime minister of Israel. He's been prime minister for, I want to say almost 12 years, or he's about to, he's literally in the middle of re-elections, their fourth re-election in the span of 2 years, because they've been unable to form a proper president and a proper prime minister and a proper government.
That sounds like a whole nother ordeal with them.
Yeah. No, their government, their parliament is, So, but imagine, a young, in West Philadelphia, born and raised, a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's in his 20s, 30s, moving to Israel, and he says, "This is my homeland. This is the land of my people." It's like, nah, you're from Philadelphia. Go back to Philadelphia.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't add
So,
up.
okay, but so now the narrative is when the Jewish people picked Palestine, they said that this was a land promised to them by God.
Okay, which
We're not going to argue that.
okay. Okay.
Now here's the issue.
Hmm.
So when they left, because okay, the 12 tribes, the 12 Jewish tribes, there were some in Israel, modern day Israel. When they left during the fall of the Second Empire, the King of David, they left and were told not to return until the Messiah returned. Now in Christianity, Christians believe the Messiah is Jesus. Now in Judaism, they don't believe in Jesus. They believe that there's a Messiah, but they don't say that, oh, Jesus is returning.
Right.
Now in their text, in their Tanakh, this is where they skew it. So their text says you cannot return until the Messiah returns. What they're saying now, their excuses now, is we're going to prepare this land, make it right so the Messiah can come quicker and save us.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
So, they claim to be the only democratic state in the Middle East, but then they also claim that they're the only democratic Jewish state. They only cater to, unfortunately, their Jewish population. Other religions who are living within their state lines are seen as second, third, and fourth class citizens. And we can get into what citizenship levels mean and what you can and can't do. But that essentially means that we need to recognize and acknowledge that that's an apartheid state. The same way it was in South Africa. The Black population and the white population that was European, were not even native or indigenous to the land of South Africa, had more rights and were able to do more and go to different stores and go, to different cities, different roads. We literally drive on different roads. We have different license plates. We have different passports.
In Israel?
Yes.
Wow, I see. This is stuff I had no idea about. And
right.
I'm sure my audience that are watching us still right now, they're just looking at me like, bro, what is he doing? I'm learning. I'm trying to understand everything.
No, but
like for real.
Yeah, but even then, like it gets even deeper. There's layers to it. So you have a yellow license plate and a green license plate. Depending on the color of your license plate, depends on where you can and can't go. Depends on the road. There's Palestinians that live within the West Bank who have never been to Jerusalem, who have never been to Nazareth, because they need permits by the Israeli government to enter these lands. These lands that were originally theirs.
Because of their license plate color?
Because of their license plate, because they identify, because they're Palestinian, they're Arab Israelis, they're from Gaza, they're whatever that they may be. They do not have Jewish descent, Jewish background, so they are viewed as a threat, and the Israeli population does not want them in these cities. Okay. In the Gaza Strip is called an open air prison. It's the densest population land in the world. It's more crowded than London, which is I think second or third.
Wow.
They're living within, certain mile radius, over 2 million people, and they cannot move. They're closed off by borders. They're literally digging tunnels underground to bring in goods, to bring in food, because Israel has blocked it for them. The United Nations said that by 2020, Gaza is going to be uninhabitable. We're in 2021. There's 4% clean drinking water there for over 2 million people.
And do you think they estimated that for 2020 because they want to be rid of Palestinians?
This is international organizations saying that if Israel continues to do what they're doing, Gaza cannot continue to live and exist.
So what is being done to change this?
Nothing.
And this again,
which is what we're fighting for now.
okay, see, and that's what I was gonna get to. It's like, this is me just trying to figure out, like, okay, so
Right.
so what is all this fighting for? Because I also see, like, we spoke about this also earlier before we started recording and whatnot. People just posting about, oh, I'm on the side of peace. Like, I just want, like,
What does that mean?
exactly. And I don't know at this point because I don't understand the situation, but I can almost tell from that statement alone and from those posts that they're not understanding what you all are going through, Palestinians.
Exactly. So for the last 73 years, we're being murdered in a genocide, ethnic cleansing. We're being kicked out of our homes. They instill fear in us. You can watch videos of the Israeli Defense Force breaking into homes in the middle of the night for no reason other than to remind you that they're there to disturb your peace, the peace that they say we have. There's a famous quote by Nelson Mandela, which goes along the lines of, there cannot be peace until there's freedom.
Yep.
How can I live in peace if I'm not free? You want me to pretend that I don't know what's going around, all day around me? I have friends and family that every day I'm messaging them to see if they're still alive or if they're injured. And because today they didn't die, that means that they're peace. That's not what that means. The Western power, as of now, in the United Nations, the United States has voted 3 times against sanctioning the state of Israel in the Security Council. They are the only country to do so. So because of that, Israel is continuing to do so. As of right now, there's a ceasefire, but we don't know how long that ceasefire is going to go. As of right now, it's May 2010-41. The ceasefire was announced a few hours ago. What does a ceasefire mean? A day, 2 days, 3 days? We want permanent freedom and liberation. We want the rights to our land. We want the rights to return home. We want the right to visit Jerusalem, to visit Nazareth, to visit Akka, to visit all these cities that belonged to us. For the last 73 years, there's been multiple attempts at peace treaties. So when you look at the West Bank and Gaza, they were intentionally split apart so that they're splitting up the Palestinian population to where we're turning against each other. So I'm from the West Bank. You have Palestinians in the West Bank. And then you have Palestinians in what you call modern day Israel. We call them 1948 Palestinians. And then you have Palestinians in Gaza.
Right. And I just have the split on the
right on the sides. And then you have Palestinians in Jerusalem who have their own different kind of paperwork as well, because Jerusalem is Holy Land. Mm-hmm. So the Palestinians in the West Bank, their government is the Palestinian Authority. And we can, go back and forth about how useful we think the Palestinian Authority is. Right. But during the Clinton and Jimmy Carter years, there was multiple peace treaties signed and made where the Palestinian Authority is no longer armed. There is not weapons in the Palestinian, the West Bank government.
Okay.
Then you move on to the Gaza Strip, where there's Hamas. Now you have to remember that these are elected parties and elected officials. Are they corrupt? Sure. Are they staying in power longer than they need to be? 100%. Do I agree with everything that they stand for? Absolutely not. Hamas is first and foremost a political party. They then have a military branch where they are funded by Hezbollah and Iran. Now let's get one thing straight. One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. Mm-hmm. These people are funneling in weapons, minuscule weapons in comparison to the fact that Israel has nuclear weapons. They're a nuclear power country.
Yeah, that's...
funneling in weapons through Egypt, through other countries, sneaking them in. If you're bombing me and killing me every single day, and I'm living in Gaza, where there is 4 hours of electricity, you're cutting my electricity throughout the day, where there's 4% drinking water for over 2 million people, where if my kid goes to the beach and they're getting bombed and they're dying on the beach, wouldn't you expect me to retaliate? Or should I just sit back in the name of peace and allow you to continue to do this? And I don't fully agree with this, but there was a tweet that somebody had tweeted because they were like, let me break it down for you in the easiest way possible. If you were getting raped, wouldn't you punch your rapist? or kick your rapist? Absolutely. I would, to an extent, would fight my rapist off. And what we're doing is we're fighting our murderers. These are people that are killing us. And it's not just the Israeli army. There's Israeli settlers, Israeli citizens going on lynching mobs. It's 2021 and they're going on mobs, pulling Palestinians out of their cars and out of their homes to lynch them in the middle of the street. They have children signing their signatures on the bombs before they send them off to kill Palestinians. And you want me to sit here? If it was up to me, I would say, let's not have any violence at all. Let's talk it out. Let's be diplomatic. But Israel has broken every single peace treaty. People want to sit here and fight, oh, Hamas is a terrorist organization. Hamas is a terrorist organization. The United States is one of the only few countries that identifies Hamas as a terrorist organization. Hamas also then rechartered their constitution. Before they said, oh, Israel doesn't exist, we don't recognize the state of Israel. Now they do. In 2018, they did. We can still argue that they're funded by Hezbollah, they're funded by Iran, which are enemies of the United States.
Did you, sorry to interrupt you,
no, you're good.
But I don't know if I read it correctly or if I saw correctly, but I think I saw that Hamas, and again, I don't really know what Hamas either. Like, I know it's a political, you explained it, political group. There's terrorists within it, but I heard that it was just acclaimed or recognized as a like terrorist group nearly globally. I don't know how long ago this was.
So in 2018, the United Nations tried to make it a global terrorist group, and the United Nations voted against it.
Okay, and this is 2018.
Yeah, there's very few countries actually recognize it as a terrorist organization. So I don't want to say that there's terrorists in it. I know that you had said that there's a military branch in it the same way that there is in the US.
Okay.
You know,
right.
Every government is going to have the right to defend themselves, the right to bear arms, the right to protect themselves.
Okay.
People's arguments right now is pray for Israel. Hamas are terrorists. They're doing this, they're doing that. Hamas was created in 1987. What's been happening to us has been happening to us since 1948. Mm-hmm. Hamas is the consequence, it's the outcome of the ethnic cleansing. It's because we were being murdered for so long and kicked out of our houses that a political party was created to say we're putting an end to this right here, right now. And they still haven't, 30 plus years.
They're still fighting, yeah.
Right, and then the Palestinian Authority, the same way. If you look up the quote unquote crimes and the terrorist accounts that the Palestinian Authority, their military branch, originally did, you'll find outrageous things. The hijacking of planes. If you look up the German Olympics, Black September, you'll find that they were kidnapping, they were killing, they were doing all these things. And when they came to the peace table and said, we want peace, we want a treaty, they said, give up your arms and we'll give you this treaty. And we gave up our arms and they still broke every single one of their peace treaties. So when we're throwing rocks, they're shooting back with nuclear power. They're shooting back with bombs, with airstrikes, with drones, all these things. How is that a fair fight? It's not.
This is all, I'm sitting here just taking it all in because it's a lot. And I'm glad that you're here also. You're very well equipped with all this knowledge and all of this research. As we come to a close, for someone like me, I'm going to speak for myself because I'm still have a lot of research to do, a lot of learning to do. And again, I'm not here to choose sides to see which side is more morally correct to my want to.
Okay, so let's start with why things have picked up and gained traction right now.
Okay, I like
so.
That.
Jerusalem, I think most people recognize the city of Jerusalem, is split up into two sides. It's east and west.
Okay.
So East Jerusalem is where the Palestinians live. There is a neighborhood within that called Sheikh Jarrah. Now, thanks to our former president, Donald Trump, he declared that he was going to move the United States Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Doing so meant that he was supporting Israel make Jerusalem the capital of their country, whereas originally it was Tel Aviv. What they're trying to do is they don't want an east and a west, they want the whole thing. So they began with saying, we're going to kick these people out of our homes. They're 20 families, more or less. Now, these are families that have always lived there. You know, there's a lot of agreements that were made for them to live there. They took it to court and wouldn't let the Palestinians defend themselves. So they started to begin evictions. When these evictions happened, Palestinians in other cities were coming to protest with them. They then closed off the entrance to the city. So if you didn't live in this little village, in this little neighborhood, you could not enter. So then these Palestinians started protesting in the Al-Aqsa compound, which is the third holiest site in Islam. They started protesting in front of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is where Jesus' tomb is. Israelis started rioting. They started tear gassing them. They started throwing strikes at them. They started shooting at them. Rubber bullets. And I don't want you to think of a rubber bullet like this. A rubber bullet is like, I don't even know how to explain to you the size. It could be the size of this milkshake, where like, people are bigger.
Yeah,
like yeah, they're going blind.
Yeah.
If you get hit, you're going blind. You're getting brain traumas. You're going paralyzed. Mm. That's what they were doing. Then they started striking their hospitals, closing the roads for people that were injured to get into these hospitals. In retaliation, Hamas started throwing rockets at them and said, if you don't stop, we're going to continue throwing rockets. That's terrifying for anybody. Mm-hmm. Now, Israel has an Iron Dome. Think of a big bubble in the sky. That Iron Dome was funded by the United States government, by our taxpayer money. Thanks to President Obama, Israel gets $3.8 billion from the US every year. $3.8 billion. Imagine what that could do to the United States population. How that could, Flint would have clean drinking water in a day.
Yeah.
You know, every single police department in this country would have reformation, education. You know, they would be properly funded in the ways that we need them to be. You know, but we're giving that a day. That's millions of dollars in seconds. So they have this dome that deflects missiles and rockets and will land somewhere else so it doesn't hit their city centers. There's few that make it through, but it's minimal. And it's like, you know, 1 out of 10 that they're sending. Mm-hmm. In retaliation, Israel has sent bombs. And they said that they're targeting Hamas. They're targeting schools. They're targeting hospitals. They're targeting religious sites. As of right now, over 200 Gazans have died, 65 of them being children. What did these children do? Israel has killed more people in Gaza, more Palestinians, these last 2 weeks than Hamas has killed Israelis in 10 years. It's not an even fight. So we can't call it a war. We can't call it a conflict. We're calling it an ethnic cleansing. We're calling it an occupation. And that's the first thing that everyone here needs to recognize. What I think, you know, moving back to saying, what do you guys need to know? That's what you need to recognize. And I fully do not believe that we're supposed to be killing Israelis. No matter what we do, Israelis are going to be there, whether we like it or not. But it's a matter of them giving us the same right to live, to exist, to return to our homes. And they're terrified of us returning to our homes and becoming citizens because then the population shifts. There's now more Palestinians than there is Israelis. That means we're getting government offices. That means we're controlling the cities. That means we're moving back to the same homes where if you right now said that you had a grandparent, one grandparent out of your 4 that was Jewish, they will give you a home in Israel. You don't need to know the language. You don't need to know anyone there. You don't need to be from there. But if one of your grandparents was Jewish, they're giving you a home, they're paying you, they're giving you government services, all these things, social services, whatever you need, just live there so that we can kick a Palestinian family out.
Really? So that was going to be my question. Like, why do they do that? But you just answered my question.
Exactly.
This is some heavy stuff, and I understand. Sure. Like I already knew what it was going to be coming into this, and I just thank you for your time and,
of course,
and you giving me this time. We were supposed to meet up. Oh, happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
I'll take that out of the recording.
No, you're good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Happy belated birthday. You've been busy, man, and I just thank you for your time.
I mean, before we go, I just want to add 2 things.
Definitely.
Not only do they instill fear in Palestinians living in Palestine. They instill fear in Palestinians living abroad. So they, you know, I don't want to even say the name out loud. There is an organization where if you talk badly about Israel, they put you on a blacklist. So if you are getting a job or you're applying to your residency program, you're applying to grad school, and they Google your name and find you on this blacklist, you will be kicked out of your program. They will not hire you on the job. You could easily, I know people who have been kicked out of their med school residencies because they said something along the lines of Israel is killing children.
And that's in America?
That's in America. That's being funded in America.
That's so,
you know, they're scaring us. Or, you know, if you say something wrong, if you're going, I know friends right now who have gone to protests and have tried to visit Palestine, and they said, no, you protested against us, we're not letting you in. Because Israel controls who goes in and out of Palestine.
Wow.
You know, I've been strip searched in an airport, in a you know, border crossing. I've been held. I've been told to get off the bus and then get back on the bus for no purpose other than to waste my time and to bother me so that I feel like I shouldn't return. So it's all systematic. And now with celebrities and with this rise, they're terrified because there's a flip. People are now supporting Palestinians. After 73 years, they're now recognizing what's happening is wrong. And the Israeli government is terrified of this because the narrative is changing, you know? So aside from all of that, I think the biggest takeaways, I think your followers should follow a few accounts just to learn more. Let's Talk Palestine is one of my favorite resources. It's an Instagram account to send to friends who really have no idea what's going on, because it'll break things down. You're getting everything. You're knowing all you need to know, but it's broken down to you in bullet points, in maps, so easily that anybody can pick it up on day one. To see what's going on the ground, Eyes on Palestine. You're seeing videos of these bombs going off. Muhammad al-Kurd, I'll send you his name. He is a resident of the city, of the neighborhood where they're trying to kick them out of their homes. You know, he was the one speaking with Angela Davis. He's been on multiple media sources, speaking with Mark Lamont Hill, so much more. The IMEU is another great source for learning about what's happening in regards to how America is playing a big role in this, how our politics is helping this. And then a website called Decolonize Palestine, which just gives you the basic information from the beginning of time.
Okay.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to follow me, they can. Just let me know that Jalen sent you my way so that I can accept the request.
You're putting her @name in here, and it's not going to be in the descriptions, but these other accounts will be, so y'all can do your research. But if you do want to follow her, hit me up and I'll ask for her permission, because we're trying to, it's dangerous out here, and it really is. And that's what, again, I just appreciate you for taking some time out of your evening to educate me and my audience if they made it this far.
Yeah. I'm sorry for ranting, but I hope it helped.
Oh, no, trust me, we're going to use this information. No, it helps me a lot, seriously. If we didn't do this for anybody, if nobody made it to the end of this video, I got a lot out of this myself. Appreciate it, for real. All right, everybody. This was a lot to take in. This is a very serious topic. If you want to learn more information, definitely look in the descriptions box. There's going to be a lot of Instagram accounts, a lot of websites to do your research. And again, this is not to take sides. This is just to learn the truth and do your research. But this is all just for information to learn, especially for someone like me, and I'm sure a lot of you who follow me who just don't know what's going on, and you just want to understand how you can help, how you can understand Palestinians and their situation a lot more, and Israel as a country a lot more. It's just whatever you're seeking to learn, you'll get it from here. So thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. That's going to be the end of this JayTalk collab. I love every single one of you. Let's get through this together. Let's find some common ground, and let's make the world a better place, man. This is the only Earth we get. It doesn't look like we're going to Mars anytime soon. And we stuck here for a minute. So let's keep this thing right, people. I love you guys. I'm thankful for every single one of you. Stay blessed. Peace.